Have you ever stopped to think about life as a game? I don't mean in a silly way, but as a real framework for, well, everything we do. We're going to dive into this because this one idea from the philosopher James Cars says there are really only two types of games we can play. And figuring out which one you're in, it can change everything.
So let's just start with the biggest question of all, the one this whole idea hinges on. Are you playing to win, or are you playing just for the sake of continuing to play? Seriously, think about that. Your answer to that question reveals pretty much everything about the game you're in, whether you even know it or not.
At its core, the difference between these two games really just boils down to their purpose. Is there a finish line you're sprinting towards, or is the goal simply to stay in the game?
Okay, first up, we've got finite games. These are the ones we all know. Think of a football game, or chess, or even an election. They are played for one reason and one reason only: to win. They have a clear start and a clear finish, specific players are involved, and the rules are set in stone. And at the end, there's always a winner and a loser.
But on the flip side, you have infinite games. These are played for the sole purpose of keeping the game going. Think about things like friendship or your career or your own personal growth. You don't win a friendship, right? Anyone can join in. The rules can and definitely do change over time. And the game only really ends when the players just decide to stop playing.
So how do people in these totally different games actually see the world? Well, a huge part of it comes down to how they look at rules and boundaries.
A finite player sees the world as a field with clear, solid lines painted on it. They play within those boundaries. The rules define the entire game for them, and their whole strategy is about mastering those rules to get the win.
An infinite player, though, totally different mindset. They play with boundaries. For them, rules and limits aren't walls, they're more like horizons. The closer you get to them, the more they expand, revealing new ways to play the game you might not have even seen before.
In this quote just hits it home. It's a huge point. Whenever we feel stuck or boxed in, it's usually because we're playing a finite game and we've completely forgotten that we're the ones who agreed to the rules in the first place. It's like we're choosing to play inside a cage that, on some level, we actually built ourselves. So once you start seeing the world through this lens, this idea of finite and infinite games, these fascinating contrasts start popping up everywhere you look. Let's check out a couple of really powerful ones.
Let's kick it off with power versus strength. In a finite game, what you're really playing for is power. Power is a title, it's a trophy, it's something you get based on what you've done in the past. But in an infinite game, you're playing for strength. And strength isn't about what you've already accomplished, it's your ability to handle whatever's coming next. Power is finite, only a few people can have it. But strength? Anyone, absolutely anyone can have strength.
This quote just nails the difference, doesn't it? Power is always looking backward, trying to protect old wins. Strength is looking forward, ready for a future that hasn't been written yet. So, the real question is, are you trying to collect titles from the past, or are you building up the resilience for whatever the future throws at you?
Okay, here's another great one. The difference between being theatrical and being dramatical. Being theatrical is finite. It's like you're an actor in a play. You've got a script, you know your role, and you know exactly how it ends. You're playing the role of a boss, or a parent, or a student. But being dramatical, well, that's infinite. It's totally unscripted. You aren't just playing a role, you're actually choosing to be a boss, a parent, a student, and you're completely open to whatever surprises come your way.
And this connects right into the idea of seriousness. When we get really, really serious about something, we're usually stuck in a finite mindset. We're afraid of surprise because it could mess up our perfect plan. But being playful, that's infinite. That's when you welcome surprise, you invite in the unknown, because that's where the real game of life actually happens. A surprise can end a finite game, but it's the very thing that keeps an infinite game going. So how does this actually work in the real world? I mean, thinking in an infinite way isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It has very real effects on how we create, how we grow, and how we deal with the world around us.
The book uses this beautiful metaphor: the machine versus the garden. A machine is a finite system. It's built to control things, to create a predictable result, but it always needs an outside force to make it run. A garden, on the other hand, is an infinite system. It grows from its own energy, it adapts to its surroundings, and it thrives on variety and spontaneity. So the question becomes, are you building machines in your life, or are you cultivating gardens?
This is such a simple sentence, but it's so profound, and it goes for both kinds of games. If you feel like you have to be in a relationship, or a job, or any competition, if you feel you must play, then you can't really play. True play, whether it's finite or infinite, is always an act of total freedom. You are always choosing.
All right, so this is all pretty fascinating. But how can we actually use it? How can we start to play more infinite games in our day-to-day lives?
Well, here's a quick guide. First, just get good at recognizing which game you're actually in. Is this a moment for winning, or is it a moment for continuing? Second, learn how to use surprise. Use it to your advantage in finite games, but embrace it to keep infinite games going. Third, actively question those boundaries you've set for yourself. Remember, most of them are just rules you agreed to at some point. Fourth, focus on relationships where you listen as much as you talk. And finally, treat things like learning not as a race to a finish line, but as a joyful, lifelong, infinite game. Because in the end, it all comes back to you. When you look at your job, your relationships, your hobbies, what games are you playing? And maybe more importantly, what game are you going to choose to play from here on out?
And we'll end on this one final, thought-provoking line from the book. After drawing all these distinctions, Kars leaves us with this: the idea that maybe all these little finite games we play, our careers, our competitions, our struggles for titles, maybe they're all just smaller moves happening inside the one, single, grand, infinite game of life itself. Definitely something to think about.